The October rain drummed against the windows of Massachusetts General Hospital as Dr. Sarah Mitchell closed the manila folder containing Liam James's test results. She had delivered this kind of news hundreds of times before, but it never became easier. The 40-something oncologist adjusted her glasses and looked across her desk at the man who had been waiting patiently for 20 minutes. Liam James sat rigidly in the uncomfortable hospital chair, his calloused hands gripping the armrests. At 34, the former Army sergeant still carried himself with military precision, though the recent weight loss had made his Patriot's hoodie hang loose on his frame. His dark hair, prematurely gray at the temples, was neatly combed despite the circumstances that brought him here. "Mr. James," Dr. Mitchell began, her voice gentle but professional, "I'm afraid the results confirm what we suspected from your blood work last week." Liam felt his stomach drop, but his expression remained stoic. Years of military training had taught him to maintain composure in the face of adversity. "How bad is it, Doc?" "You have acute lymphoblastic leukemia. It's an aggressive form of blood cancer that affects your white blood cells." Dr. Mitchell leaned forward, maintaining eye contact. "The good news is that we've caught it early enough to begin treatment immediately." The words seemed to echo in the sterile room. Liam stared at the diplomas on the wall behind Dr. Mitchell, trying to process what he'd just heard. Cancer. The word felt foreign and terrifying, nothing like the clear-cut dangers he'd faced in Afghanistan. There, at least, he could see the enemy coming. "What does that mean for my daughter?" Liam asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Emma was 17, a senior at Boston Latin High School, and she'd already lost her mother 3 years ago in a drunk driving accident. The thought of leaving her alone in this world made his chest tighten with panic. Dr. Mitchell's expression softened. "Let's focus on the treatment plan first. We'll start with chemotherapy within the next 2 weeks. The protocol we use has shown promising results in patients your age. You're young, you're strong, and your military background tells me you know how to fight." Liam nodded slowly, though his mind was racing. "How long do I have? I mean, if the treatment doesn't work?" "I don't like to deal in hypotheticals, Mr. James. Every case is different. But I will say this. You have every reason to be optimistic. We're going to throw everything we have at this disease." After scheduling his first chemotherapy session, Liam walked through the hospital corridors in a daze. The familiar sounds of Boston traffic filtering through the windows seemed muted, as if he was underwater. He pulled out his phone and stared at Emma's contact information, his thumb hovering over her name. How do you tell your teenage daughter that you might be dying? The drive home to their 2-bedroom apartment in Charlestown took 45 minutes in traffic. Liam used every minute to rehearse what he would say to Emma. She'd been through enough trauma for one lifetime. At 14, she'd watched her mother, Rebecca, slip away in an ICU after 3 days on life support. Liam remembered holding Emma's hand as they said goodbye, promising her that he would always be there for her. Now that promise felt fragile. Their apartment building was a converted brownstone from the 1920s, with thin walls and creaky floors. Liam could hear Mrs. Rodriguez's television through the wall as he climbed the stairs to the second floor. The familiar sounds of home, the neighbor's dog barking, children playing in the courtyard, felt different now, as if he was already beginning to separate from the life he'd known. Emma was sitting at their small kitchen table, surrounded by college brochures and application forms. At 17, she had her mother's auburn hair and Liam's determined jawline. She looked up as he entered, immediately noticing something was wrong. "Dad, how did it go at the hospital?" Liam hung his jacket on the back of a chair and sat down across from her. The Patriots' 2019 Super Bowl championship banner hanging on the wall caught his eye, a gift from Emma for his birthday that year. Football had been their shared language since she was little, a way to bond after Rebecca's death. "Emma, sweetheart, I need to tell you something important." She closed her laptop and gave him her full attention, the same way she had when he'd explained her mother's accident 3 years ago. Liam realized she was preparing herself for bad news, a skill no teenager should have to master. "The doctors found something in my blood tests. I have a type of cancer called leukemia." Emma's face went pale. Cancer? But you've been feeling fine. You just had that cold last month. I know, honey. Sometimes these things develop without obvious symptoms. But Dr. Mitchell says they caught it early, and the treatment options are very good. Emma stood up abruptly, pacing to the window that overlooked the harbor. What kind of treatment? Are you going to lose your hair? Will you be sick? Liam joined her at the window, putting his arm around her shoulders. In the distance, they could see the lights beginning to twinkle across Boston Harbor as evening approached. I'll have chemotherapy, probably for several months. Yes, I might lose my hair, and I'll probably feel pretty rough sometimes. But I'm going to fight this thing with everything I have. Just like Mom fought, Emma said quietly. This is different, Em. Mom was hurt in an accident that damaged her brain. This is a disease that can be treated. I'm not going anywhere. Emma leaned into him, and Liam felt her shoulders shake with silent tears. I can't lose you too, Dad. I can't. Hey, look at me. Liam turned her to face him. Remember what I always told you about being a Patriots fan? Despite her tears, Emma smiled slightly. That we never give up, even when we're down by 28 points in the Super Bowl. That's right, the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history. If Tom Brady and Coach Belichick could come back from that, I can beat this stupid cancer. Emma wiped her eyes with her sleeve. Can I come to your appointments? I want to be there. Some of them, sure. But I also want you to focus on your senior year and college applications. Your mom always said education was the one thing nobody could take away from you. They spent the next hour going through Emma's college materials, though Liam found it hard to concentrate on application deadlines and essay topics. His daughter wanted to study journalism at Emerson College, following in her mother's footsteps. Rebecca had been a sports reporter for the Boston Globe before Emma was born. That night, after Emma went to bed, Liam sat alone in their small living room surrounded by Patriots memorabilia. Signed photos, game programs, a football signed by the 2001 championship team. Tokens of a lifetime of fandom that had begun when his father first took him to Foxborough as a 6-year-old. He pulled out his laptop and began researching acute lymphoblastic leukemia. The medical websites were full of statistics and survival rates, treatment protocols and side effects. But what struck him most were the patient forums, where people shared their stories of fighting the disease. Some had been cancer-free for years, others were still in treatment. A few had memorial pages created by family members. Liam closed the laptop and picked up the signed football from his coffee table. It had been a gift from Rebecca for their 5th wedding anniversary, purchased through a charity auction. He remembered her joking that she was competing with Bill Belichick for his affections. I could use some of that championship magic now, Coach, he whispered to the empty room. Outside, the city of Boston continued its nightly rhythm, unaware that one of its citizens had just been handed the fight of his life. In a few hours, Liam would begin the process of telling his employer about his diagnosis, arranging for medical leave, and preparing for a battle that would test everything he thought he knew about strength and courage. But for now, he sat in the darkness, holding a football, and trying to believe that the greatest comeback of his life was still possible. 2 weeks later, Liam found himself in the oncology ward of Massachusetts General Hospital, connected to an IV drip that would pump poison into his veins in the hopes of killing the cancer cells faster than they could kill him. The irony wasn't lost on him. In Afghanistan, he'd fought to avoid chemical weapons, and now he was voluntarily subjecting himself to them. Emma sat in the chair beside his hospital bed, working on her college essay on her laptop. She'd insisted on coming to every appointment, despite Liam's protests that she should be in school. Her guidance counselor had arranged for her to complete assignments remotely on treatment days. "What are you writing about?" Liam asked, adjusting his position as the chemotherapy drugs began their slow drip into his bloodstream. "The essay prompt is about someone who influenced my life," Emma replied without looking up from her screen. "I'm writing about Mom and how she taught me to find stories that matter." Liam smiled, remembering Rebecca's passion for investigative journalism. She'd been working on a series about veterans' healthcare issues when Emma was born, and she'd always planned to return to that beat once Emma was older. "She would have been proud of your college applications," Liam said. Emerson was her first choice too. I know. I found her old journalism portfolio in the closet last week. Her writing was incredible. Emma paused her typing. Dad, can I ask you something? Always. Are you scared? Liam considered lying, giving her the strong, reassuring answer she probably needed to hear. But Rebecca had always insisted they be honest with Emma, even about difficult topics. Terrified, he admitted. But not for the reasons you might think. I'm not really afraid of dying. Soldiers learn to live with that possibility. I'm afraid of leaving you alone, of not seeing you graduate or get married or have kids of your own. Emma closed her laptop and moved her chair closer to his bed. You're not going to leave me alone. The doctor said the treatment is working. It was true. After 4 weeks of chemotherapy, Liam's blood counts were improving. Dr. Mitchell had been cautiously optimistic at his last appointment, though she'd warned that they had months of treatment ahead. How's work been? Emma asked, changing the subject. Liam had been working construction for Donnelly & Sons since leaving the Army 5 years ago. His supervisor, Tommy Donnelly, had been understanding about the medical leave, promising to hold his position open as long as needed. But Liam knew that construction companies couldn't afford to keep non-productive employees on the payroll indefinitely. Tommy's been great. The guys have been covering for me, and they set up a fund to help with the medical bills. Liam's voice caught slightly. People have been incredibly generous. The generosity had surprised him. Neighbors in their building had organized meal trains. Emma's teachers had sent cards and care packages. Even people he barely knew from the construction sites had contributed money or offered help. Speaking of generous people, Emma said with a mischievous grin, I have something to show you. She pulled out her phone and opened Instagram. Liam wasn't particularly social media savvy, but he recognized the interface. Emma had created a video post with photos of him in his Patriots gear over the years, at games, watching Super Bowls, teaching her to throw a football in Boston Common. Emma, what is this? Just watch, she said, hitting play. Emma's voice narrated over the images. This is my dad, Liam James. He's 34 years old, he served our country in Afghanistan, and he's been a New England Patriots fan his entire life. He taught me that being a Patriots fan means never giving up, no matter how impossible the odds seem. The video continued with more recent photos. Liam in his hospital bed, still wearing Patriots gear during treatment. Right now, my dad is fighting acute lymphoblastic leukemia. He's showing the same courage he showed serving our country and the same determination he taught me to have as a Patriots fan. But this fight is harder than anything he faced in the military. Liam felt his eyes welling up as Emma's voice continued over a photo of them together at Gillette Stadium last season. My dad's hero has always been Bill Belichick. He says Coach Belichick taught him that greatness comes from preparation, hard work, and never accepting defeat. Dad quotes Coach Belichick's press conferences the way other people quote the Bible. The final image was a recent photo of Liam during chemotherapy, giving a thumbs up to the camera while wearing his lucky Patriots hat, the one he'd worn to every playoff game for the past decade. I know this is a long shot, but if Coach Belichick or anyone from the Patriots organization sees this, my dad could really use some of that championship magic right now. He's facing the biggest game of his life, and I know it would mean the world to him to hear from his hero. Patriots Nation, beat cancer, Bill Belichick. Liam stared at his daughter in amazement. When did you make this? Last week. I've been working on it during your nap times. Emma looked nervous. Are you mad? I know you don't like a lot of attention. I'm not mad, sweetheart. I don't know what I am. Proud, I guess. And a little embarrassed. Liam squeezed her hand. How many people have seen it? Emma checked her phone. About 3,000 likes so far, and it's been shared over 500 times. Some of the local sports blogs picked it up. Liam felt overwhelmed. He'd always been a private person, preferring to handle his problems without fanfare. But seeing the love and effort Emma had put into the video, he couldn't bring himself to ask her to take it down. Your mom would have been proud of your storytelling skills, he said finally. That was beautifully done. Over the next few days, as Liam continued his treatment routine, Emma's video gained momentum. Local news stations picked up the story. Sports radio hosts discussed it during their shows. The Patriots' official social media accounts hadn't responded, but fans from across New England were sharing messages of support. Liam's phone buzzed constantly with notifications from well-wishers, many of them fellow Patriots fans sharing their own stories of how the team had helped them through difficult times. A widow from Maine wrote about watching games with her late husband's ashes on the mantle. A veteran from New Hampshire described how Patriots games gave him something to look forward to during his PTSD recovery. "I had no idea so many people would relate to your story," Emma said as they read through the messages together during his next chemotherapy session. "Football brings people together," Liam replied, "especially in New England. When you grow up here, the Patriots aren't just a team. They're part of your identity." Dr. Mitchell entered the room with Liam's latest blood work results. Her expression was more positive than usual. "Good news, Mr. James. Your white blood cell counts are responding better than we hoped. We're definitely moving in the right direction." "Does that mean the treatment is working?" Emma asked. "It means your father is responding well to the chemotherapy. We still have several months of treatment ahead, but these numbers are very encouraging." After Dr. Mitchell left, Liam and Emma sat in comfortable silence as the IV continued its steady drip. Through the hospital room window, they could see the afternoon sun reflecting off the harbor. In the distance, planes took off and landed at Logan Airport, carrying people to destinations unknown. "Dad," Emma said eventually, "regardless of whether anyone from the Patriots sees the video, I want you to know something." "What's that?" "You're already my hero. You don't need Bill Belichick's approval to be the strongest person I know." Liam felt tears threatening to spill over. In all his years of military service, through the deployment to Afghanistan and the difficult transition back to civilian life, he'd prided himself on emotional control. But his 17-year-old daughter had just said the most meaningful thing anyone had ever said to him. "I love you, Em. More than you'll ever know. I love you too, Dad. And we're going to beat this thing." As the chemotherapy session continued, Liam closed his eyes and thought about the video Emma had created. Part of him hoped it would reach someone at the Patriots organization, not because he expected anything to come of it, but because it would make Emma happy. She'd put so much effort into creating something beautiful to honor their relationship and his fight against cancer. But more than that, he was struck by how the simple act of sharing their story had connected them to hundreds of other people facing their own battles. Cancer patients, veterans, single parents, sports fans who found meaning and community in their shared allegiance to a football team. Maybe that was the real magic of sports, Liam thought. Not the games themselves, but the way they brought strangers together, creating bonds that transcended geography and circumstance. In a world that often felt divided and angry, football gave people a reason to care about the same thing, to cheer for the same outcomes, to believe in the possibility of victory even when defeat seemed certain. As the afternoon wore on and his treatment continued, Liam allowed himself to imagine what it would feel like if someone from the Patriots actually saw Emma's video. It was a long shot, he knew. Professional sports organizations receive thousands of fan requests every day. But maybe, just maybe, someone would see past the noise and recognize the genuine love and desperation in his daughter's message. Outside the hospital window, Boston continued its daily rhythm. Unaware that in room 314 of the oncology ward, a father and daughter were waiting for a miracle, holding on to hope the way they'd learned to hold on to each other. 3 weeks after Emma posted her video, Liam was having his best day since starting treatment. His latest blood work showed continued improvement, and for the first time in months, he felt strong enough to walk around Charlestown without getting winded. Dr. Mitchell had even suggested he might be able to return to light work duties within a few weeks. Emma was at school, finally convinced by Liam to resume normal attendance now that his treatment schedule was more predictable. She'd been reluctant to leave him alone, but Liam insisted that her education came first. Besides, He was looking forward to having a few hours of solitude to process everything that had happened. He was making lunch in their small kitchen when his phone rang. The caller ID showed a number he didn't recognize with a 508 area code, the same region as Gillette Stadium. "Hello?" Liam answered cautiously, assuming it was another well-wisher who'd gotten his number through social media. "Is this Liam James?" The voice was professional but warm. "Yes, this is Liam. Mr. James, my name is Jennifer Walsh. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator for the New England Patriots. I'm calling about the video your daughter posted on social media." Liam nearly dropped the phone. He sat down heavily at the kitchen table, trying to process what he was hearing. Yes, that's my daughter Emma. She made that video without telling me she was going to post it." Jennifer laughed softly. She's clearly inherited some of her father's determination. "Mr. James, your story has really touched a lot of people here at the organization. Coach Belichick saw the video, and he'd like to meet you and Emma if you're feeling up to it." Liam felt dizzy, and not from the chemotherapy. "Coach Belichick wants to meet us? Are you serious?" "Completely serious. I know you're dealing with treatment, so we're flexible on timing. Would you and Emma be available to come to the facility this weekend? We could arrange for a private meeting with Coach, maybe show you around the building." Liam's mind raced. Emma would be beside herself with excitement, but a part of him worried this was too good to be true. "Ms. Walsh, I don't want special treatment just because I'm sick. Emma made that video because she loves her father, not because we're looking for charity." "Mr. James, if you knew Coach Belichick, you'd know he doesn't do charity visits. He meets with people whose stories resonate with him personally. Your military service, your fight with cancer, the way you've raised your daughter. These things matter to him. He's not doing this out of pity." Liam felt tears welling up in his eyes. "Can I call you back? I need to talk to Emma first." "Of course. Here's my direct number. Take all the time you need." After hanging up, Liam sat in stunned silence for several minutes. Bill Belichick, the most successful coach in NFL history, the man whose press conferences he'd watched religiously for 2 decades, wanted to meet him. It felt surreal, like something that happened to other people, not to construction workers from Charlestown. He called Emma immediately. "Dad, why aren't you at treatment today?" Emma answered, sounding concerned. "I'm home. Em, I need to tell you something incredible. I just got a call from the Patriots." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then, "What do you mean, from the Patriots?" Liam explained the conversation with Jennifer Walsh, trying to keep his voice steady as he relayed the invitation. By the time he finished, he could hear Emma crying on the other end of the phone. "Dad, are you serious? Coach Belichick wants to meet us?" That's what she said. "Emma, I can't believe you did this. That video you made, it actually worked. Can I come home right now? I need to hug you." "Finish your school day first. We'll celebrate tonight." The rest of the day passed in a blur. Liam called Dr. Mitchell to make sure he was cleared for the visit, then called Tommy Donnelly to share the news. Word spread quickly through his construction crew, and by evening, his phone was buzzing with congratulatory messages from co-workers who couldn't believe their buddy was going to meet the legendary coach. Emma arrived home at 4:30, practically bursting through the door. "Dad, I still can't believe this is really happening." They spent the evening researching everything they could find about recent Patriots team activities, trying to prepare for the meeting. Emma insisted they needed to have intelligent questions ready, treating the upcoming visit like a job interview. "What if he asks about football strategy?" Emma worried. "What if I say something stupid?" Liam laughed, remembering his own nervousness before meeting high-ranking officers in the military. He's not going to quiz us on X's and O's. Just be yourself." That's what got his attention in the first place. Saturday morning arrived gray and cold, typical November weather in New England. Liam had barely slept, partially from excitement and partially from the lingering effects of his latest chemotherapy session. But he felt stronger than he had in weeks, as if the prospect of meeting his hero had given him a boost of energy. Emma had laid out 3 different outfits the night before, finally settling on jeans and a Patriots sweater. Liam opted for khakis and a button-down shirt under his Patriots jacket, the same one he'd worn to playoff games for the past 5 years. The drive to Gillette Stadium in Foxborough took 45 minutes in Saturday traffic. As they approached the massive complex, Liam felt a familiar thrill at seeing the stadium where he'd watched so many memorable games. But today was different. Today, they weren't just fans in the crowd. They were guests. Jennifer Walsh met them at the main entrance, a friendly woman in her 40s with the kind of warm professionalism that Liam associated with the Patriots organization. She led them through security and into the administrative offices, areas that regular fans never got to see. Coach Belichick is finishing up a meeting with the coaching staff, Jennifer explained as they walked through corridors lined with championship banners and team photos. He should be ready in about 10 minutes. In the meantime, would you like to see the Hall of Fame room? The next few minutes passed in a whirlwind of Patriots history, Super Bowl trophies, game-worn jerseys from legendary players, photographs documenting the dynasty that Liam had followed from its beginning. Emma took pictures of everything, her excitement infectious even in the hushed atmosphere of the team facility. "Mr. James? Emma?" Jennifer appeared at the doorway. "Coach Belichick is ready to see you now." Liam felt his heart rate spike as they walked down a hallway toward what he assumed was Belichick's office. This was really happening. After decades of watching press conferences and admiring the man's football genius from afar, he was about to meet his hero face to face. Jennifer knocked on a door marked Head Coach and opened it without waiting for a response. "Coach, I'd like you to meet Liam and Emma James." Bill Belichick rose from behind his desk, and Liam was struck by how normal he looked. Shorter than expected, dressed in team-issued clothing, with the same serious expression he wore during press conferences. But when he extended his hand to Liam, his grip was firm and his eyes were kind. "Liam, it's good to meet you," Belichick said in his familiar, gravelly voice. "Emma, that was an incredible video you made for your father." Emma beamed, shaking the coach's hand with starstruck enthusiasm. "Thank you so much for seeing us, Coach Belichick. This means everything to my dad." "Please sit down." Belichick gestured to chairs arranged around a small conference table. "Liam, how are you feeling? I know the treatment is pretty rough." Liam was surprised by the directness of the question and the genuine concern in Belichick's voice. "Some days are better than others, Coach, but I'm responding well to the chemotherapy. The doctors are optimistic." "That's good to hear. You know, I lost my father to illness when I was younger. Watching someone you love fight that kind of battle, it changes your perspective on what's really important." For the next hour, they talked about everything except football. Belichick asked about Liam's military service, sharing stories about players who'd served in the armed forces. He asked Emma about her college plans and her interest in journalism. He talked about his own children and the challenges of balancing a demanding career with family responsibilities. Liam found himself relaxing despite the surreal circumstances. Belichick was nothing like his public persona. He was warm, funny, and genuinely interested in their lives. The conversation felt natural, like talking to a neighbor or family friend. "Liam," Belichick said eventually, "Emma mentioned in her video that you quote my press conferences. What's your favorite?" Liam grinned, feeling more comfortable. "The one after the 28-3 comeback against Atlanta. You said something about ignoring the scoreboard and focusing on the next play. I use that philosophy in everything now, especially with the cancer treatment." Belichick nodded approvingly. "That's exactly right. You can't control what happened before, and you can't control what might happen in the future. All you can do is execute the next play to the best of your ability. That's what I tell Emma when she worries about me," Liam said. "We can't control the cancer, but we can control how we respond to it." "Speaking of controlling what you can control," Belichick said, standing up, "I have something for you both. But first, I want to show you something special." He led them through a door that connected his office to the team meeting room. The space was impressive, rows of chairs facing multiple screens, the same room where Patriots players received game plans and motivational speeches that had led to 6 Super Bowl championships. "This is where we prepare for every game," Belichick explained. "Every victory starts in this room, with preparation and attention to detail." Emma was taking pictures when Belichick handed Liam a wrapped package. "Open it," he said simply. Inside was a Patriots jersey with James 34 printed on the back, Liam's age when he was diagnosed. But this wasn't a replica jersey from the pro shop. The fabric, the stitching, the official NFL tags. This was authentic game-worn equipment. "This is a game jersey from our victory over Buffalo earlier this season," Belichick explained. "I wanted you to have something that represents the idea of overcoming adversity." Liam held the jersey with trembling hands, unable to speak. Emma wrapped her arms around his shoulders, both of them overwhelmed by the gesture. "There's one more thing," Belichick said. "Emma, you mentioned in your video that your dad has been a season ticket holder for 15 years. Is that right?" "Actually, he's never had season tickets," Emma replied, confused. "We go to maybe one game a year when he can afford it." Belichick smiled, the first genuine smile Liam had seen from him all afternoon. "Well, that changes today. Jennifer has 2 season tickets with your names on them for next year. Your seats are in section 114, about 30 rows up from the field." Emma gasped. "Coach Belichick, we can't accept that. Those tickets must cost thousands of dollars." "Emma," Belichick said gently, "your father served our country. He's fighting cancer with incredible courage. And he's raised a daughter who loves him enough to create something beautiful to help him through the hardest time of his life. If that doesn't earn season tickets, I don't know what does." Liam finally found his voice. "Coach, I don't know what to say. This is overwhelming." "Don't say anything. Just get healthy and bring Emma to the games next season. I want to hear how you're doing." They spent another 30 minutes touring the facility, the weight room, the cafeteria, the equipment storage areas where Liam got to see racks of game helmets and shoulder pads. Belichick walked with them personally, pointing out details and sharing stories that gave them insight into the daily operations of an NFL franchise. As they prepared to leave, Belichick pulled Liam aside. "Can I give you some advice?" "Of course, Coach." "The same mental approach that wins championships can beat cancer. Preparation, execution, and never accepting defeat. But most importantly, surround yourself with good people who believe in you." He glanced toward Emma, who was still examining her photos. "You've already got the most important teammate you'll ever need." Liam shook hands with his hero one final time, knowing this meeting would be a memory he'd treasure for whatever time he had left. "Thank you, Coach, for everything. Take care of yourself, Liam. I'll be watching for updates on your progress." The drive home passed in comfortable silence, both Liam and Emma processing what had just happened. As they crossed the Tobin Bridge with the Boston skyline ahead of them, Liam realized something had fundamentally changed. The weight of his diagnosis felt lighter somehow. Not because the cancer was gone, but because he'd been reminded of all the good things in his life worth fighting for. "Dad," Emma said as they pulled into their parking space, "do you think Mom would have believed this really happened?" Liam smiled, thinking of Rebecca's infectious laugh and her ability to find joy in unexpected moments. She would have been taking notes for her next article. "Local cancer patient meets Patriots coach. A story of hope and football." That's exactly what she would have written, Emma agreed. That evening, as they sat in their living room surrounded by Patriots memorabilia that now included an authentic game jersey and season tickets for next year, Liam felt something he hadn't experienced since his diagnosis. Genuine optimism about the future. Not just about beating cancer, but about all the possibilities that lay ahead. Bill Belichick had given them more than jerseys and tickets. He'd given them hope, validation, and the reminder that sometimes the most important victories happen off the field, in quiet moments of human connection and generosity. The next play in Liam's game plan was clear. Get healthy. Watch his daughter graduate from high school and return to Gillette Stadium next season as a season ticket holder with the best seats he'd ever had. For the first time since his diagnosis, that future felt not just possible, but inevitable. Winter arrived early in Boston that year, with snow falling steadily outside the windows of Massachusetts General Hospital. Liam sat in Dr. Mitchell's office, Emma beside him, waiting for the results of his latest round of tests. It had been 6 weeks since their visit with Bill Belichick, and Liam had been feeling stronger than he had in months. The Patriots had won their last 4 games, and Liam made sure to text Jennifer Walsh after each victory, sharing photos of himself and Emma watching from their couch, wearing the game jersey Belichick had given him. The team's success felt personal now, connected to his own battle in a way he couldn't quite explain. Dr. Mitchell entered the office with a thick folder and an expression that immediately made Liam's stomach tighten. He'd learned to read the subtle differences in her demeanor over the past 4 months of treatment. Today, she looked concerned. "Mr. James, Emma," she said, settling behind her desk. "I need to discuss your latest test results with you." Liam reached for Emma's hand, feeling her fingers intertwine with his. "What's wrong, Doc?" "The numbers were improving last month." "They were," Dr. Mitchell agreed. "But this most recent blood work shows that your white blood cell counts have started climbing again. The cancer appears to be developing resistance to the current chemotherapy protocol." The words hit Liam like a physical blow. He'd been so focused on the positive momentum, the improving test results, the meeting with Belichick, Emma's renewed optimism about the future, that he'd almost allowed himself to believe the worst was behind them. "What does that mean?" Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It means we need to adjust our treatment approach," Dr. Mitchell explained. "The current drugs aren't as effective as they were initially. We have other options, but they're more aggressive and carry additional risks." Liam felt the familiar weight of uncertainty settling on his shoulders. How much more aggressive? "We'd be looking at a more intensive chemotherapy regimen, possibly followed by a bone marrow transplant, if we can find a suitable donor. The treatment would be harder on your body, and the recovery time would be longer." Emma's grip on Liam's hand tightened. "What are the chances of success with the new treatment?" Dr. Mitchell hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Every case is different, but patients who respond to this protocol typically see significant improvement. However, I want to be honest with you about the challenges ahead. The next few months will be much more difficult than what you've experienced so far." Liam stared out the window at the snow falling over Boston Harbor. In the distance, he could see planes taking off from Logan Airport, carrying people to destinations where cancer didn't exist, where fathers didn't have to worry about leaving their daughters alone in the world. "How long do I have if we don't do the aggressive treatment?" he asked quietly. "Liam," Dr. Mitchell said firmly, "let's focus on the treatment options, not worst-case scenarios." "How long?" he repeated. She sighed. "Without intervention, probably 6 to 9 months. But with the new protocol, we're looking at much better odds for long-term remission." The drive home was silent, except for the sound of Emma's quiet crying. Liam pulled into their parking space and turned off the engine, but neither of them moved to get out of the car. The snow was coming down heavier now, coating their windshield and muffling the sounds of the city around them. "Dad," Emma said finally, "you're going to do the treatment, right?" Liam turned to look at his daughter, seeing Rebecca's determination in her eyes alongside a fear that no 17-year-old should have to carry. "Of course I'm going to do the treatment. We're not giving up now." "Good," Emma said, wiping her eyes with her sleeve. "Because I already texted Jennifer Walsh to let her know we'll definitely be using those season tickets next year." Liam smiled despite the circumstances. His daughter's faith in his recovery was absolute, and he realized that her certainty was becoming his own source of strength. That evening, as they sat in their living room watching the Patriots' Monday night football game, Liam found himself thinking about his conversation with Bill Belichick. The coach had talked about focusing on the next play, not the scoreboard. Right now, the scoreboard showed cancer ahead by more than Liam wanted to admit. But the game wasn't over. During halftime, Emma muted the television. "Dad, I want to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Always." Are you scared about the new treatment? Liam considered his answer carefully. I'm scared about a lot of things, Em. I'm scared about being sicker than I've been. I'm scared about you having to take care of me when you should be focusing on college applications. I'm scared about medical bills and what happens if I can't work for an extended period. But are you scared about dying? Liam looked at his daughter, seeing the woman she was becoming in the set of her jaw and the directness of her question. Not as much as I used to be. Meeting Coach Belichick reminded me of something important. What's that? Legacy isn't about how long you live. It's about how you live and what you leave behind. I've got the most incredible daughter in the world, and nothing, not cancer, not treatment, not anything, can change that. You're my greatest accomplishment, Emma. Everything else is just details. Emma moved from her chair to sit beside him on the couch. You're not allowed to talk like that. We're going to beat this thing, and you're going to walk me down the aisle at my wedding, and you're going to spoil your grandchildren rotten. I plan on it, Liam said, pulling her close. But if something happens to me, I need you to know that your mom and I raised you to be strong enough to handle anything life throws at you. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're right, Liam agreed. Nothing's going to happen to me because I've got the best coaching staff in the world. You, Dr. Mitchell, and apparently Bill Belichick himself cheering me on. The next morning, Liam began the process of preparing for the more intensive treatment. Dr. Mitchell scheduled additional tests to ensure his body could handle the aggressive chemotherapy. Emma insisted on attending every appointment, taking notes and asking questions with the thoroughness of an investigative journalist. 3 days before Liam was scheduled to begin the new treatment protocol, Jennifer Walsh called with unexpected news. Liam, I hope you don't mind me reaching out, she said. Coach Belichick asked me to check on how you're doing. Emma's update about the treatment change has been on his mind. Liam was touched that Belichick was thinking about them during what he knew was a busy time in the NFL season. Please tell Coach I appreciate him asking. I'm nervous about the new treatment, but I'm ready to fight. Actually, Jennifer said, he'd like to tell you that himself. Are you and Emma available to come to the facility tomorrow? We have a home game this weekend, and Coach thought you might like to watch the team practice. Liam felt a familiar surge of excitement, though it was tempered by his current health concerns. Are you sure? I know how busy the team is during the season. Liam, you're part of the Patriots family now. Coach Belichick doesn't extend invitations lightly, and he certainly doesn't rescind them because someone is fighting cancer. The next afternoon, Liam and Emma returned to Gillette Stadium under very different circumstances than their first visit. Liam was thinner now, his face gaunt from the effects of chemotherapy, and he moved more slowly than he had 6 weeks earlier. But Emma helped him navigate the facility with the same excitement she'd shown during their initial meeting. This time, instead of meeting in Belichick's office, Jennifer led them to the practice facility behind the stadium. Through floor-to-ceiling windows, they could see the Patriots running through their weekly preparation routine. The precision and intensity of professional football practice was mesmerizing, even in the cold December air. Liam, Emma? Bill Belichick's voice carried across the observation area as he approached them. He was dressed in his typical practice gear, Patriots sweatshirt, knit cap, and the focused expression of a coach in the middle of game preparation. Coach, Liam said, shaking hands with the man who had become something more than a football coach in his mind. Thank you for having us back. I know how busy you are this time of year. Never too busy for family, Belichick replied, and Liam was struck by his use of the word family. How are you feeling about the new treatment? Honestly? Terrified, Liam admitted. But Emma reminds me daily that we don't have a choice. We're going to fight this thing until it's dead. Belichick nodded approvingly. That's the right attitude. You know, in football, when your first game plan isn't working, you don't surrender. You adjust, you find new ways to attack the problem, and you keep fighting until you find something that works. That's exactly what Dr. Mitchell said about the treatment protocol, Emma added. Different drugs, different strategy, same goal. Emma's been incredible through all of this, Liam said, putting his arm around his daughter's shoulders. She's stronger than I am most days. She gets that from her father, Belichick said. You know, Liam, I've been coaching for over 40 years, I've seen players overcome injuries that should have ended their careers, bounce back from defeats that should have broken their spirit. The ones who succeed all have something in common. What's that? They understand that the scoreboard doesn't determine the outcome until the final whistle blows. Right now, you might feel like you're down by a couple touchdowns, but there's still time on the clock. As they watched practice continue through the windows, Belichick shared stories about players who had faced personal challenges while maintaining their professional responsibilities. Tom Brady playing through his mother's cancer diagnosis. T.D. Bruschi returning to football after suffering a stroke. Matthew Slater balancing his NFL career with his father's battle with dementia. The thing about this organization, Belichick explained, is that we understand football is just a game. What matters is how people treat each other, how they respond to adversity, how they support their teammates when the going gets tough. Coach, Emma said, can I ask you something? Of course. When you have a player who's injured and might not be able to come back, how do you keep believing they'll recover? Belichick smiled at the question. I don't believe they'll recover, Emma. I know they will, because I've seen what happens when people combine medical expertise with determination and family support. Your father has all three of those things. Liam felt tears welling up in his eyes. 6 months ago, he'd been a construction worker whose biggest concern was whether the Patriots would make the playoffs. Now he was standing in their practice facility, receiving encouragement from one of the most successful coaches in sports history, preparing to fight for his life with an intensity that would have made any player proud. There's something else, Belichick said, reaching into his jacket pocket. I wanted to give you this before you start the new treatment. He handed Liam a small silver coin, about the size of a $50. On one side was the Patriots logo, and on the other were the words, "Do your job," Belichick's famous motto that had become synonymous with the team's success. Every player who's been part of a championship team gets one of these, Belichick explained. It reminds them that success comes from everyone doing their job, no matter how small or difficult it might seem. Your job right now is to get healthy. Emma's job is to support you and continue being an incredible daughter. Dr. Mitchell's job is to provide the best medical care possible. Liam held the coin, feeling its weight in his palm. Coach, I'm not a player on your team. Yes, you are, Belichick said firmly. You're playing the most important game of your life, and you're representing everything this organization stands for: preparation, perseverance, and never accepting defeat. That makes you a patriot in the truest sense of the word. As their visit continued, Liam realized that something fundamental had shifted in his perspective. The new treatment wasn't something to be feared. It was the next phase of his game plan, a strategic adjustment designed to overcome an opponent that had adapted to his initial approach. Emma seemed to sense the change in her father's demeanor. As they walked back to their car through the December afternoon, she squeezed his hand and said, "You look different, Dad. More confident." "I feel different," Liam replied, fingering the coin in his pocket. "I think I finally understand what Coach Belichick was trying to tell me. This isn't about whether I'm going to beat cancer. It's about how I'm going to beat cancer." "What's the difference?" Liam smiled, thinking about the distinction. "The difference is certainty. I'm not hoping for the best anymore. I'm planning for it." That evening, as they prepared for the start of Liam's more aggressive treatment the next day, Emma made one final update to her original Instagram video. This time, instead of asking for prayers or hoping for a miracle, she shared a photo of Liam holding the coin Belichick had given him. "Update on my dad's cancer fight," she wrote. "The opponent adjusted their game plan, so we're adjusting ours. More aggressive treatment starts tomorrow, but we're not worried. We've got the best coaching staff in the world, and Patriots don't give up. Ever. Do your job. Patriots Nation. Beat cancer." Within hours, the post had hundreds of comments from Patriots fans across New England, veterans who understood the significance of the phrase, "Do your job," and cancer survivors who recognized the determination in Emma's words. But more importantly, it had accomplished something neither Liam nor Emma had expected. It had transformed their story from one of a sick man hoping for help into one of a fighter preparing for victory. As Liam fell asleep that night, he wasn't thinking about chemotherapy or side effects or survival statistics. He was thinking about next season's Patriots games, about walking Emma down the aisle at her wedding, and about all the ways he was going to use his second chance at life. The scoreboard might show cancer ahead at the end of the third quarter, but Liam James was preparing for the greatest comeback of his life. February arrived with the kind of brutal cold that made even lifelong New Englanders question their choice to live so far north. Liam sat in his hospital bed, watching snow swirl outside his window, while an IV drip delivered what Dr. Mitchell had promised would be his final round of intensive chemotherapy. The past 2 months had been the hardest of his life. Harder than Afghanistan, harder than losing Rebecca, harder than anything he'd thought he could survive. But he had survived. The aggressive treatment had worked exactly as Dr. Mitchell had hoped. Liam's cancer cell counts had dropped to undetectable levels 3 weeks ago, and yesterday's bone marrow biopsy had confirmed what they'd all been hoping for: complete remission. "Dad, you're staring out that window like you're planning an escape," Emma said from her chair beside his bed. At 18 now, she'd grown up considerably during the months of his treatment. College acceptance letters were starting to arrive, including one from Emerson that had made her cry with joy, but she'd deferred enrollment for a year to help with his recovery. "I'm planning something better than an escape," Liam replied, turning away from the window. "I'm planning our return to Gillette Stadium." It was true. The Patriots had made the playoffs despite an inconsistent regular season, and they were set to play in the divisional round this weekend. Liam had been cleared by Dr. Mitchell to attend the game, marking his first time in public since beginning the intensive treatment protocol. "Are you sure you're ready for that kind of crowd?" Emma asked. "It's going to be loud and cold, and you're still recovering." Liam smiled at his daughter's concern. The protective dynamic between them had shifted over the past few months. Emma had become fiercely protective of his health, monitoring his medication schedule and nutrition with the dedication of a professional caregiver. But Liam could see she was also eager to return to some semblance of normal life. "I've been dreaming about this game for months. Dr. Mitchell says fresh air and excitement are good for recovery. Besides, I promised Coach Belichick I'd be there." It was true. Belichick had called personally the week before to check on Liam's progress and to remind him that his season tickets were waiting for him. The coach had also mentioned something mysterious about having a special surprise for Liam and Emma during the game, though he'd refused to elaborate. Dr. Mitchell entered the room with Liam's discharge paperwork and a smile that had become increasingly common as his condition improved. "Mr. James, I have some final test results that I think you'll want to hear." Liam and Emma both turned their full attention to the doctor, who had guided them through the most frightening period of their lives. "Your blood work from this morning shows no detectable cancer cells. Your immune system has recovered to normal levels. All indicators suggest that you've achieved what we call a complete remission." Dr. Mitchell paused, letting the words sink in. "Liam, as of today, you are cancer-free." Emma burst into tears, throwing her arms around her father's neck. Liam felt a wave of emotion unlike anything he'd experienced in his adult life. Not just relief, but a profound sense of gratitude for every breath, every heartbeat, every moment he would get to spend with his daughter. "What does that mean for the future?" Liam asked when he could trust his voice to remain steady. "It means we'll monitor you closely for the next 5 years, but your prognosis is excellent. The type of leukemia you had responds very well to the treatment protocol we used. Many patients go on to live completely normal lives." "Can he go back to work?" Emma asked. "He's been driving me crazy talking about returning to the construction site." Dr. Mitchell laughed. "In a few weeks, yes, but I want him to ease back into physical activity gradually. And Liam, you need to listen to your body. You've been through a war, and your body needs time to fully recover." As they prepared to leave the hospital for what they hoped would be the last time as cancer patients, Liam felt a strange mixture of emotions. Relief, certainly, and gratitude beyond measure. but also a kind of survivor's guilt about beating a disease that claimed so many others, and uncertainty about how to move forward with this unexpected gift of time. "Dad," Emma said as they waited for their discharge transportation, "I need to tell you something." "What's that?" "I've been thinking about taking that gap year even though you're in remission. I want to spend time with you before I go to college. We've spent so much of the past year focused on treatment and recovery. I'd like to just enjoy being your daughter for a while." Liam felt his throat tighten. You don't need to do that for me. I want you to start college on schedule. That's what Mom would have wanted." "This isn't about what Mom would have wanted, or what you want, or what anyone else thinks I should do. This is about what I want. And I want to spend time with my father who just beat cancer." Liam pulled Emma close, marveling at the woman she'd become during this ordeal. "You know what? A gap year sounds perfect. We've got Patriots season tickets to use, and I could use a year to get my strength back before you abandon me for college." Saturday arrived clear and cold, with the kind of crisp winter air that made Gillette Stadium feel like a cathedral of football. Liam and Emma made their way through the parking lots, surrounded by the familiar pre-game rituals of Patriots fans, tailgating, flag-waving, and the nervous energy that accompanied playoff football. Their seats in Section 114 were exactly as advertised, 30 rows up from the field, with a perfect view of the action. Liam wore the game jersey Belichick had given him, now loose-fitting due to his weight loss but still representing the connection he felt to something larger than himself. "Mr. James?" A stadium security guard approached them during warm-ups. "Coach Belichick would like to see you and your daughter before kickoff. Could you come with me?" Emma and Liam exchanged surprised glances. They followed the security guard through tunnels that led beneath the stadium, eventually emerging in the area where players and coaches prepared for games. The energy was electric. Players focused on their final preparations, coaches reviewing last-minute strategy adjustments. Belichick appeared around a corner, dressed in his game day attire, but with a smile that Liam had rarely seen during their previous meetings. "Liam, you look incredible. How are you feeling?" "Like a new man, Coach. Doctor Mitchell says I'm officially cancer-free as of yesterday." "That's the best news I've heard all season," Belichick said, his voice carrying genuine emotion. "Emma, your father just achieved the greatest comeback in sports history." "Thank you, Coach," Emma replied, "for everything you've done for us. The visits, the jersey, the season tickets. It all helped Dad get through the worst times." "Actually," Belichick said, "I have one more thing for you both. But first, I want to share something with the team." He led them to the team meeting room, where the entire Patriots roster was assembled for their final pre-game meeting. Liam felt overwhelmed being in the presence of players he'd watched on television for years, but Belichick's presence made the situation feel natural. "Gentlemen," Belichick addressed the team, "I want you to meet Liam James and his daughter Emma. Over the past 6 months, Liam has shown us what it really means to never give up. He's been fighting acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and yesterday, he was declared cancer-free." The room erupted in applause. Players approached Liam to shake his hand, sharing brief words of congratulation and admiration. Tom Brady, who Liam had watched win 6 Super Bowls in a Patriots uniform, told him that his story had been inspiration for the entire team during their playoff preparation. "Liam," Belichick continued, "you've shown us that the principles we use in football, preparation, perseverance, teamwork, apply to every important battle in life. You've been an example to our entire organization." He handed Liam a framed photograph, the team's official playoff photo, signed by every player and coach. But more significantly, at the bottom of the frame was an engraved plaque that read, "Liam James, Honorary Team Captain, 2025 Playoffs. Presented to a true Patriot who exemplifies our motto, 'Do your job.'" Liam stared at the plaque, unable to speak. Emma wrapped her arm around his waist, both of them overwhelmed by the gesture. "There's one more thing," Belichick said. "Liam, would you be willing to serve as our honorary captain for today's coin toss?" Liam looked at the coach in disbelief. "Coach, I'm just a fan. You're not just a fan," Belichick interrupted. You're someone who faced an impossible situation and refused to quit. You're someone who inspired an entire organization by showing us what real courage looks like. That makes you the perfect choice to represent what this team stands for." 20 minutes later, Liam James, construction worker, veteran cancer survivor, and lifelong Patriots fan, walked onto the field at Gillette Stadium for the coin toss. 65,000 fans cheered as his story was announced over the public address system. Emma watched from the sideline, tears streaming down her face as she took pictures of her father living out a dream that neither of them could have imagined 6 months earlier. The Patriots won the coin toss and chose to receive the opening kickoff. As Liam shook hands with the opposing team's captains and the referees, he thought about the journey that had brought him to this moment. A year ago, he'd been a relatively anonymous construction worker whose biggest concerns were paying bills and helping Emma with college applications. Now he was standing at midfield of an NFL playoff game, having beaten cancer, and inspired a team that had given him hope during his darkest days. The game itself was a classic Patriots playoff performance, methodical, efficient, and ultimately successful. Liam and Emma cheered from their seats as the team advanced to the next round of the playoffs. But the outcome felt secondary to everything else that had happened that day. As they walked back to their car after the victory, Emma turned to her father. "Dad, do you think Mom would have believed everything that happened to us this year?" Liam thought about Rebecca, her journalist's skepticism balanced by her romantic belief in the power of human connection. She would have believed it because she understood that sports aren't really about games. They're about people finding ways to connect with each other, to support each other through difficult times. And what would she have written about today? Liam smiled, imagining his wife's approach to the story. She would have written about the power of community, about how strangers became family when someone needed help. She would have written about how courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite being terrified. "That's exactly what you did, Dad. That's what we did, Em. This was never just my fight." 6 months later, Liam returned to full-time work with Donnelly & Sons Construction. His colleagues threw a welcome-back party that lasted until midnight, celebrating not just his recovery but his engagement to Sarah Bennett, a nurse he'd met during his recovery who shared his passion for Patriots football. Emma started college at Emerson that fall, majoring in sports journalism with plans to write stories about the intersection of athletics and human resilience. Her first published article, in the college newspaper, was titled, "The Coach Who Taught My Father How to Live." Bill Belichick retired from coaching the following season, ending the most successful tenure in NFL history. At his retirement press conference, he was asked about his most memorable moment as Patriots coach. His answer surprised reporters who expected him to mention one of his Super Bowl victories. "A few years ago, I met a man named Liam James who was fighting cancer," Belichick said. "He taught me that the most important victories happen off the field, in hospital rooms and family kitchens, and anywhere people choose hope over despair. Coaching football was my job, but meeting people like Liam was my privilege." Liam watched the press conference from his new home in Medford, where he and Sarah were preparing for their wedding the following month. Emma was home for spring break, helping with wedding preparations and interviewing her father for a book she was writing about their experience. "Any regrets about getting cancer?" Emma asked during one of their interview sessions, a question that would have seemed absurd a year earlier but now felt natural given everything that had happened. Liam considered the question seriously. "I regret that you had to worry about losing another parent. I regret the financial stress and the physical pain. But do I regret the journey? No. Cancer taught me things about love and family and community that I never would have learned otherwise. Such as? Such as the fact that heroism isn't about performing extraordinary acts under extraordinary circumstances. It's about ordinary people choosing to support each other through ordinary difficulties. Coach Belichick didn't cure my cancer, but he reminded me that I wasn't fighting alone." "And what's the most important thing you learned?" Liam looked at his daughter, now 19, and preparing for a career in journalism that would allow her to tell stories about people overcoming impossible odds. "I learned that the final score isn't determined until the game is actually over. I spent months thinking cancer was winning, but I was only looking at one quarter of the game. What changed? I realized that the real victory wasn't beating cancer. It was living fully despite cancer. Spending time with you, meeting Coach Belichick, finding love with Sarah, returning to work, being present for all the small moments that make up a life. That's what winning actually looks like. Emma closed her laptop and moved to sit beside her father on the couch. Outside their window, Boston Harbor sparkled in the afternoon sun, and in the distance, they could see planes taking off from Logan Airport, carrying people toward whatever adventures awaited them. "Dad," Emma said, "I'm proud of you for beating cancer. But I'm even more proud of you for showing me how to live without fear." Liam put his arm around his daughter, thinking about all the dreams that had seemed impossible during his darkest days of treatment. Emma's college graduation, her future wedding, grandchildren he might someday hold, decades of Patriots games they would watch together from their season tickets. All of it was possible now. All of it was waiting for them. "You know what the best part is?" Liam said. "What's that?" "We get to find out what happens next." Outside, Boston continued its eternal rhythm, unaware that in a small house in Medford, a father and daughter were planning for a future that cancer had tried to steal, but love had helped them reclaim. The game was over, and despite trailing for most of the contest, they had achieved the most improbable victory of all. They had won their lives back. And somewhere in the city, in a place of honor on Bill Belichick's desk, sat a framed photo of an honorary team captain who had taught a legendary coach that the most important victories happen when nobody's keeping score.